Well, a lot to cheer about here in Polk County. You know, we talked a little bit about, and you're going to hear more about it in our next segment, but the growth of Polk County, the tourism industry, just rocking, which we knew was going to be a matter of time, but it took an enormous amount of work to get an airline in here, another airline. Of course, we had direct air. Now, here's, well, I was trying to figure out how I was going to transition that, but I'm just going to let our next guest, senior manager at Visit Central Florida Sports and Visit Central Florida alone, Marc Zimmerman, but he is the manager of economic development, a big part of Velo Airlines coming into Polk County. Announcements have been made the last few days. You're going to get an inside look at what it takes to get an airline here, and it still goes back to the fundamentals, supply and demand. Marc Zimmerman, welcome aboard, and you're no stranger to this desk, but it's got to be a huge sense of gratification for you. And now the city of Lakeland, Polk County, voting on the certain appropriations to ensure the success of Velo Airlines right here in Lakeland. Yes, well, thank you for having me on. It's always great when there's some good news to share. And, you know, it's one thing to, like you mentioned, Mark, it's a long time coming. It's been about 12 years since we had our last commercial service airline, which is, you know, for people who don't understand commercial service, that's your everyday person getting on a plane rather than cargo service like Amazon flies in there now. So yeah, we're very excited about Velo Airlines coming in to Lakeland starting next year. Well, Mark, it's been a long process. This stuff, these airlines just don't decide overnight. They have a very complicated formula and matrix that they work through to decide what destinations are going to be the most profitable for them. If it's not profitable, they're not going to fly. Correct. That's the bottom line. But you know, some of the things that Velo, let's talk a little bit about Velo Airlines. It's a young airline, 3 years old, but they're already in 44 cities and now growing even more. So yeah, and a good reputation in the industry. Yes, absolutely. They are very young. Started in 2021. CEO was formerly with Allegiant. Has a background with United as well. So great background. Velo is an ultra low cost carrier. So it's the type of, you know, the a la carte type service, right? You're going to buy your ticket, and if you're just flying with a backpack, you're probably good to go. Yeah. But if you want a seat, you get a seat. If you want to pick your seat, if you have checked luggage, things like that. Well, of course, pretty much every airline's charging for checked luggage at this point. But so everything's a little add-on. But they start out with that really low base fare. They fly to secondary markets. It's not, you're not flying to Atlanta, New York, and the big markets. From Florida, they fly to the East Coast and the Midwest. They don't have flights that go out west at this point. I mean, they may get there at some point. But it is, we're very excited about it. You know, it's an airline that, like you mentioned, Mark, it's a little bit of, they have a lot to look at when they're coming in. A lot of it's costs and will people get on planes to go to that destination? And what makes sense for them to come in from which cities? And will people from that city get on planes to go to other destinations? So it's a little bit of a mix going back and forth, and you have to have both. But we've been working and talking with Velo for a long time, working through the logistics. The airport, certainly fantastic. Chris Hallstrand and Adam Lund over there, the director and the assistant director, working with them day in, day out to just kind of get this deal done. And we're involved on the marketing side, so we're going to be helping to put those butts in seats, like everyone likes to talk about, and get those people on those planes coming in and visiting our destination. Yeah, well, and I heard saw some reports on what it's going to mean to Polk County. This is a big deal. Yeah, I mean, and it's going to start out slow, right? Velo has some hubs that they fly out of, 2 destinations, and that's where it will start. That they'll fly from those hubs into Lakeland at first, and that we're looking at middle of next year to start. About a year from now, the plan is to ramp up service and have some planes based here, and then they'll be flying to
upwards of maybe 10 destinations from Lakeland, flying to those places, coming back. So it is, you're right. I mean, when you get to that point, when you're flying to 10 destinations, you know, and the way they do service, it's a very similar. It's not daily service. It's two to four times a week. So those people are, which is great in the way we look at it, because you're not coming in one day and leaving the next. So you're coming in, you have to stay.
Which is good for Polk County.
Right, exactly. You have to come in and stay probably 3 days, or 4 days, or longer. So we're very excited about the service and the way that they operate. And you're right. Obviously we do our research as well when they're doing their research into the airlines, and they've had a lot of great customer service stories, and people seem to really enjoy flying on them. Yeah,
we were actually talking this morning, Marc and I, about with the county commission about the niche that they've sort of carved out. They have strategic advantage in, like, I don't know, 5 or 6 different areas. One you had mentioned is an ultra low cost. The a la carte option is actually a good way to put that, because you only pay for what you need.
Right.
You know, and so I think there's one of the insurance companies that hangs their hat on that slogan. But you know, when you're booking your family, automatically it books kids under, I believe it was 13,
yes.
Right?
Yep.
With the parents, so you don't have kids in the back, parents in the front, and all of this. I mean, but they've done so many things well. The on time, Marc mentioned that, best in the industry. I mean, right. It's better than Delta. I mean, it's like, whoa, for the whole year, the 10 months up to now. Yeah. I think they're at 82.7 or something like that, Marc. And
I've seen them as high as 86 at points, and so it's
that high.
Yep, they're doing quite well with that. Yep.
Yeah. And that's a big thing if you're flying.
No.
Yeah. And there's some others that are in the 60s and 70%. And say, oh, great. Might as well do this.
I wanted to circle back to the secondary cities. They may be secondary cities in their markets, but they're not in the middle of nowhere. I mean, Lakeland would be considered a secondary city, but
absolutely. But we're right in the heart of Florida. I mean,
right.
in between 2 major markets. I mean, and really we're the fastest growing market in Florida. So I mean, correct. I mean, they're flying 2 cities. They're generally, but we're looking at it, and while we can't announce routes because the routes haven't been determined yet. There have been discussions about potential places, and we see where they currently fly. And we look at those cities and say, those are great cities for us to be able to go in and market and promote and promote our brand there and really get people on the planes to come down to Florida.
That, and Marc, Sports Central, but do you think that there's going to be some interest from some of the sports teams that come to Rustmat teams or others?
Possibly, and really Avelo actually does some charter type service. Where they've actually signed contracts with teams to where they will fly them. Obviously, it has to work financially on both sides, but there is that possibility of them kind of engaging in that service as well. And clearly, when we go into a market to promote our area, we're going to be promoting everything. So we're going to promote what a great destination we are, what we're great for families. I mean, I don't need to say all this, right? We all know this. But we'll be promoting Legoland, we'll be promoting all the offerings that we have. But we're going to go in and promote our sports events too. I mean, more than 300 sports events a year. What a great option to get a low-cost flight, come down, and be able to play in a sports event in Polk County, and then you stay for a few days and head on back.
Yeah, well, and those airplanes go in both directions. And speaking of the airplanes, there's always this perception, ultra low cost. These are good airplanes. These are 737s. It's not like, I was flying out of Tampa one time and down to the Keys and looked out on the prop. Literally, no joke, there was duct tape around one of the blades of the prop. That's a true story.
Well, you made it though.
I made it, but no, this is good stuff.
These are quality planes. Twilight Zone stories.
Yeah.
Looking at the Gremlin.
Yeah, no, this is good. They've got some really quality. Hey, we call them Zim when we're not on air. But thanks so much for joining us. We greatly appreciate it. Congratulations on a job well done.
Thank you. Well, glad to be here and still have a few more approvals. Got to go to our board on Tuesday and Lakeland City Commission on Monday. But we're confident that the board members have seen enough information and they're excited about it as well.
Well, I'm confident you'll get it done.
Thank you.
if you enjoyed this interview and want to watch more Sports Central, click the video below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.